Are you a business owner stuck in fear, doubt, and worry about what the marketplace will look like in the future? Then this show is for you. Strap on your seatbelt and get ready to disrupt and innovate. Here's your host, Lisa Levy.
I'm excited today to welcome Coby Skonord, the founder and CEO of IdeaWake. It's a platform that helps corporate innovation improvement in HR teams turn employee ideas into measurable results. Coby left a Big Four job on day one to build IdeaWake, and now he helps brands like Kraft Heinz, SiriusXM, and US Bank grow revenue, cut costs, and boost efficiency. He's raised over $3.7 million and scaled to $2 million in annual recurring revenue. He helps companies double the ROI of their idea programs while cutting admin time in half. Let's get ready to rethink bottom-up innovation. Coby, welcome to the conversation.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for having me. Excited for the conversation. So really the main driver of it really comes from like two different angles, I guess. So like you said, ideas are the foundation or bedrock for business success, right? But the other side of really what we focus on and why companies will use this method, the bottom-up method to innovate, really comes down to being able to better engage frontline staff and tap into their ideas and build the next generation of leaders. So even though AI is a thing, it's not going away. I don't think that humans in the workforce are going away either. So really it's something that is just as important now as it was, and it will continue, I think, to be incredibly important, where we want to improve employee engagement, well-being, and retention and make folks feel empowered. So what we do at the end of the day is help tap into the folks who might have ideas that you would otherwise never find that can disrupt the company, or they can just help save an hour a day in time, right? You apply that out of a company of 1,000 people, it's 1,000 hours a day in savings. So a lot of what we do is starting there and then getting to the more disruptive stuff.
Well, and let's take this in kind of a crawl, walk, run. So ideas and innovation, right? Innovation doesn't happen without ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But innovation isn't exclusively about technology. It isn't exclusively about science. It's not those things that really change business. It's the ideas that save the 1 hour a day.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that when you nurture and teach people how to do this, it will materially change the operating model for a business. So walk us through the approach with IdeaWake and how that works from that bottom-up perspective.
Yeah, definitely. I do something you said too. It's the crawl, walk, run. We literally have a framework, crawl, walk, run. And so starting with the small stuff, even if you want to get to the big stuff, is huge. I just wanted to highlight that, literally to yes and to what you said. But how our system works, right? You run these, we call them innovation challenges, but they're time-based campaigns. Think of them like an internal marketing campaign where we're doing an open call for ideas, but they're based on a specific topic that's related to a specific organizational goal that there are dollars behind. Right. So once you get the ideas, they actually are related to something that the company wants to do versus them just falling under the HR category if you do like an open call for any idea. Then from there, employees submit ideas. We have the full crowdsourcing experience. So folks can comment and add on to ideas or like build teams within the software. And then you have different types of voting to surface ideas that have high value. And then you can manage the entire life cycle from like shortlisting, having subject matter experts evaluate the ideas, ultimately managing implementation and the actual financial impact.
And this is truly bottoms up. I know that I am asked often when we talk about creating an innovation engine inside of businesses, how do you get the buy-in, right? Because we have leaders who are well into their career. They're in a place at the top of the food chain for a reason, and they have lots of ideas too. But to actually make this work, it is bottom up, and it needs to come from the voice of the people inside of the organization. How do you get the buy-in to go down this path?
So answer everybody loves to hate. It depends a little bit, but it's a couple different categories. So, I mean, it's from a senior leadership perspective, a lot of senior leaders, when they get to that level, if you're at like CEO, executive VP, do have the intuition that tapping in, like they know that they're only seeing high level reports and not on the front lines every day. So anecdotally, that's a pretty easy, like they can very easily map the ROI. Where we see the most issue is in mid-level management and like director level management in terms of actually the execution of the ideas or getting their buy-in for the program. So everything that like we see starts with tone at the top with senior leadership, the buy-in, and really the buy-in from them, if they don't have the if they don't intuitively see that, is reducing their operating expenses by 2% if they don't have a program like this in place, or B, looking at if they have a lower than, if one of their goals is around employee retention, we have a bunch of case studies behind that for just whether you use IdeaWake or have like another system that you home grow. So those would be like the two angles we normally take are operational efficiency and then employee retention.
And just having those two as talking points are very powerful,
Mhm.
right? Being able to tune inside of the business where you are driving down overhead and getting employees who stay longer, right? That's another reduction in overhead in terms of paying for turnover and training and bringing new people in. So it's a double whammy that has a really big measurable impact. Will you tell me a story about a client environment where they brought this in and had some just fantastic results?
Uh, would love to. So, exam one, which was actually one of our earlier customers, when they had an offline suggestion, they literally had physical cards, and they were getting about I don't know 22% participation, and it was a subset of the overall company, which isn't actually that bad. But it was, the frequency of ideas. They wanted to basically double the program participation. So when we came in 6 months after implementing IdeaWake and digitizing the whole process, we had the participation rate up to 78% active monthly from employees, and then also we added like an additional 1.4 million in savings from what they were doing, and that represented about 2% of their bottom line for that operating unit.
That's a significant impact.
Yeah, they were happy.
They were happy. I would hope that they were happy with that. So utilizing IdeaWake, how does it work? It's a technology platform and there's also the opportunity, right? There's organizational change. People have to learn how to do this. They have to learn how to think differently. They have to be convinced that it's safe to say that the baby is ugly and that there's maybe a better way to do things. How do you take them on that journey?
Yeah. So I mean, the using the software for frontline team members when you're like, hey, when you get the senior leadership buy-in, the actual process of engaging is very easy. The hard part, like you said, is the change management once you have the ideas. And so we like what we present. We're a software as a service company, right? But from our retention perspective, what we found is we had to get into the like consulting side of things more and productize that. So it's part of the subscription. But really, it comes down to that building innovation as a muscle. It's not something like we want to launch this program to create a new product to transform the company. Great. Problem is that everybody else has like incentives in the company. Everybody's getting measured on like quarterly or annual goals, and those aren't in them. So CEO says we want to launch a new product, doesn't bake it into like the expectation structures of the company. And so it causes a lot of animosity. Most of the time when you try to do something that big, it falls flat versus trying to crawl, walk, run, where you start out with operational improvements, get some buzz off of that, show ROI, and then actually build it into the actual expectations of the organization. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense, right? And in every organization, the key in this, and I'll use a slightly different language on it, but it's building momentum,
Hmm.
right? Small incremental wins grow to bigger, more impactful wins, grow into things that can be truly disruptive.
Hmm.
Do you have a story to share about a disruptive idea that went gangbusters?
So actually, yes. So a lot of them we can't like from IP we can't share, but one of them was pre-COVID. So OSF Healthcare is it's a rural health system and Catholic health system in Peoria, Illinois. So they've been one of our customers for many, many years now. And it was 2019 when they launched a campaign around helping. It was around aging in place. That was a trend within healthcare. It still is, right? And so one of the things that they came up with was basically hospital at home before hospital at home was a thing. And hospital at home became a thing during COVID. But when COVID happened, they were in a much better position because they'd already been building out the infrastructure and the resourcing for it and the business model behind it, where they could actually just, it was already live. Whereas most hospitals, the entire business model for them is based upon you have to come to our center for care, right? Because they spend a lot of money on physical buildings. So that was something that was really cool and that was super, super successful. So that would be one story I'm able to share.
One of the things that I love when I have these conversations are the examples in healthcare, because on one hand, it's something that is so systematically broken in this country that I often flippantly say target rich environment for any sort of consulting and any sort of improvement work. But when we actually stop and are innovative in that space, the change that happens and the impact to life and to patient outcomes, it is so significant. And how fortuitous that people were generating ideas prior to something that could have potentially devastated that patient base in a time period. That's a fantastic story. Thank you for sharing that. I would love to switch the focus a little bit from the business, but to you as the founder and the CEO, and talk a little bit about a bold decision that you made that has changed the path of what you're doing and maybe even why you're doing it.
Yeah, so you gave the one at the front, which was like the very beginning was I'm a reformed accountant. That's what I like to say. So background's accounting and finance. I had no experience building software. And so when I was 23, I just decided to take the leap, partially because I had no idea how hard it would be. So that was like in my life, the biggest, I guess, crossroads within the company itself.
Yeah.
The biggest change that we made when we like first started the company, we first 2 years were completely different products. So originally we were helping anybody with an idea anywhere in the world actually build out their idea and using the wisdom of crowds in order to help validate it, but then actually using crowdsourcing to build out the idea. So we basically did that for 2 years, helped build about 500 products, everything from textiles, manufacturing, software, all over the board, which was one of the first problems. But we found entrepreneurs didn't have one thing, which was money. So you can't build a business model off that. And so we pivoted the business when I was speaking at a local event, and a business walked up to me. It was a manufacturing company, Rundle Spence, at the time who became a customer, and asked me, "Can you like do this inside of my company? I want my employees to share ideas." And I said no initially, and then my co-founders at the time took me kicking and screaming, and we pivoted the whole company. Um, yeah, I mean, it
And a
was.
perspective, right? In that moment, no, that's not what you did.
Mhm.
Right, I get it. I understand the initial answer, but wow, what a difference it makes.
Well,
And
made
for
all the difference.
so right, impact for your customers, right? So that it's all very focused on them. And as your business has grown and matured, you don't have to be jack of all trades, master of none. You are about the idea process and
Mhm.
that ideation, right, and nurturing it inside, but you don't actually have to figure out how to help them fulfill and execute against it because they are actually the subject matter experts in their space. You're not. So it positions you in a much stronger space for growth and scale long term.
Yes.
Looking back at that moment and that initial resistance, do you go, "God, what was I thinking?"
Oh, yes, 100%. But,
That's
you know,
fantastic.
yes, I'm much older now, so I've got it's you get perspective as you grow, right, as an entrepreneur and as a person.
Yeah, we go on the journey and we get the gray hair and the scar tissue to tell the tales.
Exactly.
While you've been growing and evolving with IdeaWake, what are some of the roadblocks to your own business growth that you've faced and overcome?
COVID was the biggest one by far. So we were very focused within healthcare. We were in multiple industries, about 8 or 9 at the time, but over 50% of our revenue was healthcare, and they were just much larger, like, deal sizes. And so we had 5 different health systems through contracting and through red lines and through security that would have over doubled the size of the company in terms of monthly recurring revenue. March 20th happened, and literally all 5 dropped out. We lost another health system that was, $10,000 a month at the time, which didn't kill us, but it hurt. The real thing that hurt was losing the 5 that were through all the work. And I'm sure as within healthcare, it's very, very difficult. It takes a long time to get through that process. And so we, went back to the drawing board and basically battled all the way back to where we were. It took us over 2 years, 2.5 years to go to basically make up that lost revenue. But we did it. And now we're industry agnostic, like focused a lot more across industry. We're in 18 different verticals now. So yeah.
The impact of losing deals that you were ready to close in healthcare, you were talking about 5 different deals, right? Stopped probably everything. But in your attempt to work through and come through that, you've now diversified and you're truly industry agnostic. I'm thinking that with the growth cycle, you were in healthcare because it's a space that your team knew and was comfortable with. The pain, right, that 2 steps back gave you that leap forward into going into new and different places.
Hmm.
Painful, but in retrospect, did it pay off?
Well, it definitely paid off because it beat going out of business, right? So, I mean, at the end of or having to cut down team a bunch, and it was a struggle, right, at the time. But we are a lot stronger for it in terms of just the resiliency that the business has. Because now our customer density, I guess, like any one customer only makes up, maximum 3% of our revenue now. So it's much easier to take any big hits that come.
And so that diversification gives you the ability to ride the wave of change and disruption in different industries so that your company is stable and growing and can move and support in other places if you're losing. And that's in maturing business. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
With this approach and what you're building, what is it you're truly trying to help your clients accomplish? What is that end goal?
I would say innovate, like building a culture of innovation or a culture of improvement. At the end of the day, is the quote unquote end state that most companies, everybody that implements it, has that as the primary goal. It's either culture of innovation, culture of improvement, and fostering that more across a larger swath of the organization. But at the end of the day, one of the drivers of that's either going to be more growth from like product sales, improved customer experience or retention, et cetera, or cost reduction.
Absolutely. It's a parallel innovation and improvement. People don't think about how complementary those two things actually are. But when you're working from, and you started earlier with, typically there's a tone at the top with the senior leaders who really understand what they want to do, right? Because they are going to let go of that sense of control because the ideas coming from the bottom up are actually more tangible, more impactful, and will probably more often than not drive more value to the organization than the ideas in their heads because they are removed from the day to day. But actually getting into the model of this working as part of culture, innovation distinctly and specifically drives overall improvement. And so it's a really clever way to get an entire culture based on making tomorrow better than we are today. Absolutely fabulous. Coby, if you've piqued the interest and curiosity of members of the audience, how do they find out more about you or IdeaWake?
Yeah. So you can for me, go to my LinkedIn, just Coby Skonord. And then for our company, you can go to ideawake.com, spelled like idea and then awake, like you're either waking up or riding awake.
And both ways, it's fun to think of it that way. Well, Coby, thank you for that. The links will be in the show notes for the audience members, so it's easy for them to find that. Thank you for talking through with us IdeaWake and the idea that bottom up ideation breeds the next generation of leaders. It drives innovation, it drives improvements, and it is all as simple as a crawl, walk, run mindset. We start with an innovation challenge. We generate the ideas focused on a specific topic inside of a business, going to the crowdsourcing inside of the organization to grow the ideas, to vote on the ones that actually seem to be logical and meaningful, and then go through that execution and actually making them real, the evaluation and how that's all said and done. Audience members, it might sound surprisingly like an innovation engine to you in that simple 3-step process we talk about often. And all of these things, right? It is a cultural shift, a paradigm shift, and you build the momentum by showing the results one idea at a time. Coby, thank you so much for being here with me today. Audience members, you know my rules. Don't get left behind. Join me next time.
That's it for today's episode of Disrupt and Innovate. Head over to iTunes and subscribe to the show.